Latin. I'm going to read you just stretches of it in English. We're going to just touch on it very, very quickly. It's not that it's an unimportant book, but in the course of 8 years high school class, you simply can't read everything. And, choices have to be made. Then we're going to get into the beginning of book 4, and of course your Latin homework picks up tonight with 160 of book 4. Feeling like there's something else, but maybe not. All right. So we left off at the end of book 2. What had been going on? What had been going on? Telling the story about the Trojan War, specifically about the fall of Troy. Specifically about that last night.
Him wanting to kill Helen.
Wanting to kill Helen. We got into all that. Who stopped him from that?
His mom.
His mom stopped him from that. And said, you really need to go back and think about what?
Think about your dad.
Think about your family, your dad, wife, son. I've been protecting them thus far, but really, they're your responsibility. You need to get back to it. I'm going to pick back up from the end of 6, about 6:24 of book 2. Then indeed it seems to me that all Ilium was sinking into flames, and the Neptune's Troy was being overturned from her base. Even as when on mountaintops woodmen emulously strained to overturn an ancient ash tree. So it's like the gods were competing to see who could destroy Troy faster. 6:34. And now when I had reached the door of my father's house, my ancient home, my sire, whom it was my first longing to bear high into the hills, and whom first I sought, refused, since Troy was laid low, to prolong his days or suffer exile. You, he cried, whose blood has the freshness of youth, and whose strength stands sound in native vigor, you must turn to flight. For me, had the lords of heaven willed that I should lengthen life's thread, they would have spared this my home. Enough, and more it is, that I have seen one destruction, and have survived one capture of the city. To my body, thus lying, yea, thus, bid farewell and depart. So, when he goes back to rescue his dad says what? Go. Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me. My time is done. And I can't survive. I can't tolerate seeing another or tragedy at the end of my life. You're young. You go. Take the wife and kids and go. 6:50. So he persisted in his speech and remained unshaken. But we were dissolved in tears, my wife Creusa, Ascanius, and all our household, pleading that our father not bring all to ruin along with him, nor add weight to our crushing doom. He refuses and abides in his purpose in his place. Again I rushed to arms, in an utter misery long for death. For what device or what chance was offered now? Did you think, my father, that I could go forth leaving you? Did such a monstrous word fall from a father's lips? If the gods will that naught remain of our great city, if this purpose is firmly set in your mind, and it is your pleasure to cast yourself and your kin into the wreck of Troy, for this death the gate is open wide, and soon will come Pyrrhus, steeped in the blood of Priam, Pyrrhus who butchers the son before the father's eyes, the father at the altar. Of course, what's he thinking of? When he killed Priam and Priam's son, he'd just come from seeing that. Was it for this, gracious mother, that you saved me amid fire and sword to see the foe in the heart of my home, and Ascanius and my father and Creusa at their side slaughtered in each other's blood? Arms, men, bring arms. The last light of life calls the vanquished. Give me back to the Greeks. Let me seek again and renew the fight. So Aeneas says, look, Dad, if you're not going to leave, then I might as well do what? I might as well go back into the fight. I came back here partly to save you, and you don't want to be saved. So if we're all going to die, again, there's this thing, at least I'm going to go down fighting. And he wants to grab his stuff. Once more, I strap on my sword, line 671 and following. Pass my left arm into the shield as I fitted on and was hurrying forth from the house when, lo, on the threshold my wife clung to me, clasping my feet and holding up little Iülus to his father. If you go to die, take us too with you for any fate. But if from past experience you place some hope in the armor you have donned, guard first this house. So Creusa pleads with him to do what?
Guard like the family before trying to fight for this.
She's like, okay, if we're not going to escape, fine. But as long as you're getting all, Rambo'd up, stay here and protect us rather than going out into the city and doing stuff for other people. So crying, she filled all the house with moaning. when a sudden portent appears, wondrous to tell. For between the hands and faces of his sad parents, from above the head of Iülus, a light tongue of flame was seen to shed a gleam, and harmless in its touch, lick his soft locks and pasture round his temples. Trembling with alarm, we quickly shake out the blazing hair, and quench with water the holy fire. But my father Anchises joyously raises his eyes to the skies, and uplifts to heaven hands and voice. Almighty Jupiter, if you are moved by any prayers, look upon us, this only do I ask, and if our goodness earn it, give us your aid, Father, and ratify this omen. And he's going to go on to say, hey, this is a good sign that your son's head burst into fire. Now, later on in Roman history, this is going to happen again. In the reign of Tarquinius Priscus, his slave boy, Servius Tullius, the same thing happened. His head burst into flames, didn't burn him actually, it was seen as a sign from the gods. Kid grows up in the palace, gets all cultured and educated, and becomes the 6th king of Rome. So there is a notion, there is this experience here of people's heads spontaneously combusting, and that being a good thing. So, I leave it to you whether you think the better thing for your child is a good, gifted, and talented program, some AP, IB program at the local high school, or send him to bed with a can of kerosene and a match. I leave that up to you as a parenting decision. I'm not going to decide for anybody. You know, and I just realized this is, of course, going out on the internet. Don't ever set your children's heads on fire, okay? Just as an adult.
You should tell me that. It has to like spontaneously combust.
That's true, but don't try to fake it. Don't try to have a fake divine moment by setting your kid's head on fire. Don't do it. Just say no. Okay? So now they decide that they're going to flee because Anchises has said, hey, this is a sign from the gods, and so we are going to leave. Now, they decide to meet at a tree outside the gates of Troy. This is significant. Okay? Again, I'm not going to bother looking this up on the internet because I'm tired of looking up stuff where I can't believe that AP really doesn't have us reading this. Are you absolutely serious we're not reading this? They decide to meet at a tree outside of Troy. He tells his friends, anybody else who wants to come with us, you can. Dad has said, hey, it's a sacred thing now, we are going to go. And they start to make their way out of Troy. And as they're going, Creusa falls behind. And let's see here, we pick it up in Pick it up in 7:30. And now I was nearing the gates and thought I had accomplished all my journey, when suddenly crowding on my ears seemed to come a tramp of feet, and peering through the gloom my father's cries. My son, flee, they draw near. I see their glowing shields and glittering brass. So everybody's trying to get out of Troy, and Aeneas has got his common meeting spot. He says, we're going to meet at this tree outside the gates. And as they're going, and Aeneas, of course, got the little boy by his hand, and he thinks he hears Anchises behind him. And he thinks he hears Anchises saying, hurry up, get out. There's soldiers coming. Says Aeneas. Line 735. At this, in my alarm, some malign power stole my distracted wits. For while I plunge down byways and leave the courses of the streets I know, alas, my wife Creusa was snatched from me by an unhappy fate. So when he hears this voice that he thinks is his dad saying, hurry up and get out, and whatever road Aeneas is going down trying to get out of Troy, he's like, go this way. And he goes down these side alleys and he's, I just got to get out of here. And he loses Creusa, who has been following him. And on Whitney, 739, did she wander off the path? Did she substitute? Did she stop? I do not know. Never again was she restored to my eyes, nor did I look back for my lost one or cast a thought behind until we came to the mound in ancient Ceres' hallowed home. there was a mound sacred to Ceres out by this tree where they were going to meet, and he didn't even think to look back for Creusa. He assumed that she was right there with him. There was no particular reason for him to look back. Everybody's trying to get out together. It wasn't until they got out to the mound, he looks around, and it's where's Creusa? It's the Home Alone movie, right?
Yeah.
Here at last, when all were gathered, she alone was missing and had vanished from the company, her child and her husband. What man or god did I not reproach in my frenzy? This guy's mad. He's angry at everybody because of what happened to his wife. What crueler sight did I see in the overthrown city? Ascanius and my father Anchises and the household gods of Troy I put in charge of my fellows and hid them in a winding vale. I myself seek again the city and gird on my glittering arms. I'm resolved to renew every risk, to retrace my way through all Troy, and once more expose my life to every peril. So what's he going to do? He's going to go back and look for her. Or go back and look for her. And in all this business later on about Aeneas being such a cad with Dido, maybe he was then, but you can't fault him here. He's willing to risk life and limb. He puts his other stuff in care of people and says, I'm going to go back in and find him. First, I seek again the walls and dark gateway by which I had left the city. I mark and follow back my steps in the night, scanning them with close eyes. Everywhere dread fills my heart. The very silence, too, dismays. Then I turn homeward in case she had made her way there. Okay? Now, in all seriousness, this is one pop culture reference I'm actually serious about. There's a handful of songs that absolutely just make me weep. And this one doesn't quite make me weep, but it's there. It really is there. And it's a song called Downbound Train by Bruce Springsteen. One of the most depressing lyrics ever. Okay? Find it, listen to it. Go to Groove Shark. You guys know Groove Shark?
Yeah.
Go to Groove Shark, get the song and listen to it. The guy's wife has left him. And he has dreams at night where he hears her voice calling to him. And he says, he'll get up and he'll go running and he'll go back to the house they first had when they were married. And he'll burst through the door, he'll run up the stairs, and he's looking for his wife. And all of a sudden he'll hear the whistle of the train, and he remembers she's gone. She's left him. It is that kind of horrific depression that is Aeneas right here. He's like, oh God, maybe she went back home, and he's going to go back home, but of course she's not going to be there. Because the Danae had rushed in and filled all the house. Forthwith the devouring fire rolls before the wind to the very roof. The flames tower above. The hot blast roars skyward. The house they've just left is now engulfed in flames. I pass on and see once more the citadel and Priam's house. And then he sees people plundering the gold and so forth. Okay? I filled the streets with shouts. Line 769. I filled the streets with shouts. And in my misery, with vain iteration, called Creusa again and again. And of course, why is this so dangerous to him? The Greeks. Here comes Aeneas, one of the most famous Trojan warriors. He's come back in, and the guy isn't trying to be quiet about it. He's bellowing, and he's in his armor that it said earlier was glittering. All right, so the guy doesn't get all camoed up. Right? I mean, he's a walking neon light shouting Creusa. Right?
Well, they're still wearing the Greek armor, though?
Well, yeah, maybe he's still wearing the Greek armor. Yeah, it's unclear there. No, because it says he wanted to pick up arms again from his house, so presumably that would be his own armor. But good thinking there. As I rushed in my quest madly and endlessly among the buildings of the city, there rose before my eyes the sad phantom and ghost of Creusa, line 772. In Felix, simulacrat quipsius umbra Creusa, visa mihi ante oculos, et nota maior imago. Look at it there. The in Felix. There's something not right about this. This simulacrum. In Felix can even mean cursed at times. It's a ghost of Creusa, it appeared to me. And it's an imago that is maior than what is nota. It is greater than what was known. In other words, she didn't appear as her normal size. She appeared as the giant family size, but the easy pour spout Creusa. Okay, we're talking the giant 64-ounce Creusa, right? Giant Creusa here. Not sure where that came from, but okay. And the giant ghost says to her, she says, of what avail is it to yield thus to frantic grief, my sweet husband? Not without the will of heaven does this befall, that you should take Creusa from here on your company from herein your company cannot be, nor does the mighty Lord of heaven, of high Olympus, allow it. So in other words, who's responsible for the fact that I didn't make it?
The gods.
The gods, and you can't fight against that, son. Or husband, you know you can't fight against that. And so you've got to go on. At least she says, I'm not going to be a slave
Yeah,
to some Greek.
I like how she's
At
so
least
okay.
I'm not going to be a slave to some Greek. Now go on. Go on.
I think she's okay with that.
Okay? We pick it up in book 3.
I would too if my whole city got destroyed.
Okay? He continues his story. So books 2 and 3, know the whole flow of this, folks. Books 2 and 3 comprise the evening dinner time story to Dido. Okay? So book 2 is really about the fall of Troy. Then book 3 is about their wanderings prior to coming to Carthage. Okay? Post quam res Asiae priamique vetra gentem, etc., etc. After it pleased the gods above to overthrow the power of Asia and Priam's guilty race. And if you don't realize what that is, that's Aeneas basically flipping off the gods right there. Priam's race didn't deserve this. Priam's race was guiltless. You gods who did this.
Oh, you called him guiltless.
He's-
I
yeah.
think you said guilty.
No, guiltless. We didn't have this coming to us, but you did it. Anyhow, after you screwed us over, right? After proud Ilium fell, and all Neptune's Troy smokes from the ground, we're driven by heaven's auguries to seek distant scenes of exile in wastelands. Now, as we go through this, you want to grab some notes out, because we kind of want to see what some of the stuff is that they hit along the way, places that they hit. And I'll say, if you've got your maps, you should still have your maps in the beginning of the year that I think Rachel made copies for us, those black-lined maps of the Mediterranean. Let's see where Aeneas and the boys are going. Okay? Okay. Follow along in your text. We're in book 3. I'm going to pick it up in line 13. And have your map handy and your notes. So as much as you can fit on your desk there of all that stuff. They set sail, and he says, at a distance lies the war god's land, of widespread plains tilled by Thracians. So they're going to where? Thrace. Okay? Thrace, the most famous Thracian ever, was a gladiator. Who? Spartacus. Spartacus was from Thrace. Now notice where we are on the map, right here. The coastline of Asia Minor is Troy. Okay? So maybe you want to put Troy in right about here. Okay? That's Troy. And you see up here on this map, the yellow right up here is Thrace. Okay? Right here, close to that little bridge of land connecting you to Asia Minor. Okay, so Thrace is kind of northeast Greece there, if you will, kind of next to Macedonia. As we head to Thrace, to it I sailed, and on the winding shore found my first city. Entering on the task with untoward fates, and from my own name fashioned the name Aeneadae. So, dude sails really just right around the corner to Thrace and starts setting up shop. Aeneas actually does plant several towns before he ever gets to Italy. Okay? And the first town he plants is called Aeneadae. He names it after himself, just like Trump Towers and Trump Trailer Park, and Trump
Alexandria.
Toilet, and all the stuff that
Disney
Trump puts his
World.
name on. Yeah.
Alexandria.
Disney World.
And Disney World, right? And Alexandria, right? All the Alexandrias, right?
And Brown.
Yes, yes. What do Walt Disney, Donald Trump, and Alexander the Great all have in common?
They're all-
Megalomania. You know, they all got to stick their names on
So
stuff.
wasted.
You know. Okay. Well, all fabulously wealthy and
Powerful.
and a big cartoon mouse figures into all their stories. That's
I
not
wouldn't
true.
say.
There's no big cartoon mouse in Alexander.
There's
I
definitely
should
one
have
with
been.
Trump.
There should be.
I feel
Have you seen The Contender, whatever that show's called?
Okay.
Apprentice?
That's gotten out of hand. That show has just gotten out of hand. It was ridiculous to begin with, but it's gotten out of hand. All right.
yes,
here we go.
relates to the words "you're fired."
Hey guys, we're
On
on
TV.
TV for president.
I was offering sacrifice to my mother, he says, and the other gods, that they may bless the work begun, and to the high king of the lords of heaven, I was slaying a shining white bull upon the shore. So here's Aeneas doing what he does, being pious, being faithful, setting up his new town, making his sacrifices. By chance, close by there was a mound, on whose top were cornel bushes and myrtles bristling with crowded spear shafts. I drew near. and is saying to tear up the green growth from the soil. Hey, there's some plants, let's pull them up, that I might deck the altar with leafy boughs. I see an awful portent, wondrous to tell, he says. Mirabile dictu, line 26 in the Latin. There's another example of a supine. There's your ablative supine, horribile in respect to the telling, right, or mirabile in respect to the telling. For from the first tree which is torn from the ground with broken roots trickle drops of black blood. Plants don't bleed,
Yeah, they do.
but these do.
Kind of.
Okay?
See those?
Okay?
So you
A cold shudder shakes my limbs, and chilled blood freezes with terror. Once more, from a second also I go on to pluck a tough shoot and probe deep the hidden cause. From the bark of the second also follows black blood. Pondering much in heart, I prayed the woodland nymphs duly to bless the vision and lighten the omen. But when with greater effort I assail the third shafts. Okay, you've done it twice, and the thing has bled and freaked you out. You really gonna go back for a third? I mean,
Well, twice doesn't make a pattern.
well, I guess a trice doesn't make a pattern. Exactly right. Virgil was thinking of us literature readers in the future. You're right, actually. That's true.
of course.
With my knees I wrestle against the resisting sands. A piteous groan is heard from the depth of the mound, and an answering voice comes to my ears. Woe is me! Why, Aeneas, do you tear me? Spare me in the tomb at last. Spare the pollution of your hands. I, born of Troy, am no stranger to you. Okay, the ground is talking and saying, hey, I know you. Stop hurting me. I'm no stranger to you. Not from a lifeless stock oozes this blood. Ah, flee from the cruel land, for I am Polydorus. Here an iron harvest of spears covered my pierced body and grew up into sharp javelins. Polydorus tells the story of how he, a messenger from Troy, had once gone to Thrace. The local king had done something horrible, violating the laws of hospitality, had killed this messenger, and the spears that had killed him had just grown into plants. And so now when Aeneas pulls one of these plants out, it's sort of pulling one of these spears out of his body, and so he's trapped there, in this, undead, quasi-dead zombie state thing. Anyhow, he says, basically, you don't want to be around here. Obviously, this ground is cursed. You need to leave. Okay? Okay. And I love this. We pick it up at the line 66 and following. Aeneas is like, okay. Aeneas can read the signs of the gods as well as anybody. He says, we offer foaming bowls of warm milk and cups of victim's blood. We lay the spirit at rest in the tomb, and with a loud voice, give the last call. Okay, we bury this body, we do the sacrifices. Guys, let's go! Boom, man, they're out there. It's last call, baby. Get to the boats, because we're leaving. We're not, if we leave you behind, we ain't coming back. This place is
Even
haunted.
plants, man.
Okay? Yeah, they got haunted plants, man. It's just, wow.
Rocky Horror Picture Show.
I gotta say, I've heard of people getting a hold of bad grass, but man, that's a whole, this is a whole new thing. Okay. Wow.
I'm glad you got that out of your system.
That doesn't
Dude, dude.
Wait, how many drug
Something
jokes?
to get to.
Perkins.
Yes.
How many drug jokes does that make this year?
Oh, stop. Stop. We're on tape. All right.
You just made a weed joke.
Thank you for that, John.
Yeah, so I don't think anyone got that. I don't think anyone understood what he said.
Yeah, no idea.
All right.
What? Yeah, I thought you were
All
talking
right.
about like Bermuda.
Then, as soon as we can trust the main, the winds give us seas at peace, and the soft whispering south calls to the deep. My comrades launch the ships and crowd the shores. We put out from port, and lands and towns fade from view. In mid-sea lies a holy land, most dear to the mother of the Nereids, and Aegean Neptune, blah, 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 blah. Hither I sail, and most peacefully the island welcomes our weary land in a safe haven. Landing, we do homage to Apollo's town. King Aeneas, at once king of the people and priest of Phoebus, comes out and says, hey, we're glad to have you here. Okay, so they continue now. And say, okay, Thrace is cursed. So they sail south and they hit the island of Delos, capital D-E-L-O-S. All right, Delos is the island that's sacred to Phoebus Apollo. In fact, he's often referred to as the Delian, capital D-E-L-I-A-N, the Delian god. All right, so they go to the island of Delos, and all right, gotta watch our time here. All right, so we get some more omens there. Say, hey, you got to keep on going, guys. All right. Next, we're going to pick it up in 121 and following. There's a rumor going around, Fama, that Crete might be a good place to go. So, we're looking at the map. Crete is due south from where they've been. It's the big island right here. So they keep on coming. They pass by Delos now. They've done that. And then now they're going to head towards Crete. So, hey, maybe that's a place for us to go. And on to Crete, they say, because there's a connection to Crete, they think that some of the forefathers of Troy have come from Crete. And they say, okay, so we're going to have an ethnic connection here, and we can go there. Alrighty. Right. Blah, blah, blah. There comes a message in the night, and the message is, you have got to go to a place that the Greeks call Hesperia, capital H-E-S-P-E-R-I-A. Hesperia, capital H-E-S-P-E-R-I-A. And Hesperia for the Greeks simply means west, western land. So the idea is, yeah, guys, you're not going to be able to get all easy. You can't just go stop here. You got to go keep on going. You're going to go to some land that the Greeks call the western land. Okay, so now we're getting our sense that this is going to be a longer journey yet. Okay? They say, we get the vision that it's a place also called where the Oinotri dwell. This is a Greek root that has to do with wine. We may have talked about this. This is a perfectly good English word, enophile. An enophile is a wine connoisseur. So the Oinotri, or people, or kind of the people who till the grapes and grow the grapes, and they also hear that this place has been named after somebody named Italus. So they know that they're going to Italy. They know that that's where they're going to go, and that's where they need to go. Aeneas says, I realized we got to do this, and we pick it up in 176 in following of book 3. He says, I snatched myself from bed, raised my voice, and upturned hands to heaven, and offered pure gifts upon the hearth. Aeneas is like, okay, got the vision. Sorry, GPS was wrong. We got to go to Italy. Guys, it's not Crete. Let's do this thing, and let's go. Right. Blah, blah, bunch of stuff. Our ships again gain the deep. They're going to sail on. This is 191 and follow. Okay? And they got some storm clouds, and they got some storms and some rain coming up. And they wash up on a shore after this storm. The island of the Strophades is the island of the Harpies. So they're still bobbing around here in the Mediterranean, nowhere near Italy yet. They land on the island of the Harpies. Now you may remember the Harpies from the Jason story. What kind of creatures are Harpies? Half bird, half women. They befouled the food of Phineas. You know, every time he tried to take a meal, they come in and mess it all up so that he couldn't eat. And by the way, that just to know that word is passed into English is a very harsh word to call a woman.
What?
A harpy. A harpy. Someone basically who shrieks and screams and yells and before I could even say it, don't call your mom that. Don't do that.
This is on YouTube.
Don't do that. Don't do that.
tempt fate.
No.
She's gonna be like, oh, thank
No.
you.
No. Okay. If you're going to insult people, I will say you might as well use classical allusions. I mean, it's better than, being foul-mouthed and potty-mouthed.
Exactly.
But still, you call your mom a harpy. You're not going to the dance this weekend, let me tell you. Okay. I'm just saying. All right. And they get a prophecy from the leader of the Harpies, I guess I could call her a chick and be right on both counts. Kalino. Okay? And she gives them some advice, and she says, well, guys, I hate to tell you this, but it is over in, I want you to go to line 256 and following. Look at the Latin there, because this is going to prove very important when we get to book 7. She says, guys, you will not gird with walls your promised city until dread hunger forces you to gnaw with your teeth and devour your very tables. Don't think you're getting to Italy anytime soon, boys. Because you're going to endure a whole lot of stuff, and you're going to know that you have finally reached the land where you're supposed to go when you are so hungry that you start eating your tables. That's a rather curious comment. It gets fulfilled, and we'll see how. And interestingly enough, it's Euless or Ascanius, and he is the son who remembers this when they get to book 7, and it actually happens, and he says, hey, we're home. And they remembered the prophecy. So that's very, very significant.
Interesting that a harpy would say that.
It is.
Yeah, like hunger. That's when you'll.
Yeah, well, exactly. What are you going to expect her to say,
Like-
right? I mean, yeah, that's kind of what they're known for there. Okay.
Isn't there a superhero that's like a harpy?
Hawkman.
I can say it's Hawkman and Hawkwoman.
Yeah,
From the
Hawkwoman.
planet Thanagar.
Right.
Good
There you go.
Oh,
Nerds.
above my head.
Not nerds, just fans of the Justice League. Anyhow.
Marvel's
Mistake,
not-
yeah,
not very-
Okay, shut up! Shut up with your Marvel self.
Marvel.
DC!
Marvel.
DC!
Marvel.
Superman!
Superman.
Green Lantern!
Batman.
Flash!
Batman.
Batman!
Batman.
He said.
Nerf.
He needs to be nerfed. He needs to be nerfed. I'll give you Batman. Superman's crap. It's like they try to put way too many superpowers into one.
Spider-Man.
Speaking of, I got really.
Well, I say his one weakness, his main bad guy, seems to have an abundance of.
Oh, look, Tony Stark is just rich and makes stuff. I mean, come on.
Yeah,
Maybe
lame.
that's his claim to
What's that?
I
fame.
got really think. Okay, so
That's
Superman.
better.
Plus,
Batman.
Marvel draws some people that aren't even like from planet Earth, like Thor. Dadgum foreigner.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, what's wrong with good old Earthlings?
Yeah, Captain
Isn't
America.
like great?
Yeah! Oh no, that's
Wait.
Hey, you sucker me in on that one. Okay. Yes.
Superman is like the nerds.
But he stands for truth, justice, and the American
And
way.
he was raised on a farm.
That's right.
Raised on a farm.
And he
Batman.
In a place called Smallville. Doesn't get any more American than that.
He's
Shoot.
technically
Shoot.
an illegal
Won't
alien.
even take advantage of Lois
He's
Lane,
literally
shows her
in a-
too much respect.
Good show.
He is literally an illegal
That's
alien.
gonna need
He's an illegal alien, Mr.
You
John.
guys make him as Captain America,
Okay.
guys. Come
That's
on.
not his name.
All right. Now,
What is it?
they find out.
That's the title.
They find out. They get word. Okay, look at this. They're coming around now the western coast of Greece, and they get word that right up in here, the western coast of Greece, a kingdom called Epirus, and this is a very important kingdom in history as well as mythology. Epirus, they've heard. Okay, they've heard that. Well, this is one of the cruelties of this story. There is a girl named Helen who is a Greek, and there's a guy named Helenus who's a Trojan. And I find, one day I'm going to ask Homer about that. Could you not have come up with one more name? I mean, really, would it have been that much trouble? There's a guy named Helenus who's a Trojan exile, and they hear that he is now king in Epirus, married to the widow of Hector, Andromache.
What?
And so they think, hey, we're going to pay a visit. Here's some Trojans who has kind of set up shop. They're going to be able to help us a little bit here. It's just right up the way here, right up the coast, the west coast of Greece. I say this is important in history. It's important for two things. First of all, Alexander the Great's mother, Olympias, was from there.
Olympia.
Okay? And just as the rest of mainland Greece didn't really quite trust Macedonia, they thought Macedonia was all kind of backwater and kind of hick and not very
Kentucky.
cultured. Kind of Macedonia is Kentucky of the ancient world. And I did say that on tape. And the Macedonians were suspicious of Epirus, partly because it was mountainous and there was lots of weird stuff going on there. She was accused basically of being a witch, that she was not right. No. The second one is, you should know a fellow named Pyrrhus, not the Pyrrhus son of Achilles. In history, there is the Pyrrhus of Pyrrhic victory. Pyrrhus was king of Epirus when he came to fight the Romans in 4th century BC, 300s I think, and really was the first guy to bring elephants into Italy, not Hannibal. It was Pyrrhus of Epirus. Okay, they go there, and they're going to visit Helenus, and they're going to visit Andromache, and Andromache, of course, gets all teary-eyed because she sees Ascanius,
Oh, yeah.
and she says, "You are about the age that my boy Astyanax would be." And remember, I told you the other day what happened to him.
He was killed.
He was brain dashed against the walls of Troy by the Greeks. And she gets all overcome, and she says, remember your mother. As you grow up, I want you to hope you remember your mother. And there's a real touching scene there.
Was she there when her son died? Or was her?
Yeah. According to Euripides, in the play of Trojan Women.
Yeah, you told us. Oh, the one with the baby.
Yeah,
Oh.
exactly. Yeah. How you going to forget that? It's one of the most brutal images of war that we'll ever encounter. Okay, so they do that, and now you got to press on. Okay, I'm scrapping for time here. Here's the deal. We're going to keep picking up as best we can. Your homework tonight does say to read what? Pick it up in 160 and go where? 160 to 173. Be prepared for that. We're still going to try to catch some of this end of book 3 stuff, the first part of book 4. I'll tell you, I think it's a good idea to read the beginning of book 4 before you just jump right into line 160 of a new book. I think you should read the first few lines.